Con. I'm with Wendy and Richard, and they're the creators of Elfquest. Where are my Elfquest fans in the house? Yes, fantastic. You've certainly had time to become a fan of Elfquest, and of course I got Pal joining me on the couch. Sorry, Pal, I love you.
That's right. You got 15 minutes to become a fan right here, right now.
Right. Oh,
Yes.
you're going to be a fan after we
But wait,
hear
there's
the
more.
story.
Well, just this is a comic that's been going on for 40 years, ladies and gentlemen. So it's been some time. If you want to know how it all started, the research is out there on the internet. But can you just tell us, where after 40 years we are at in the comic right now?
Oh my God.
It's a big one. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. We are wrapping up a 40-year story that we began, that first appeared February 28, 1978. And the final issue in this 40-year arc will come out February 28, 2018, 40 years to the very day that Elfquest first appeared. And we've been planning this for all that time. It's not make it up as you go.
No, we've actually known how the story was going to end since we first started.
Oh.
So we've had to keep the secret all this time.
That's tough.
Has it ever changed along the way?
Let's just say that things that happened along the way might change the flavor of the martini
Got it.
a little bit, but it's still your basic martini.
Same recipe in there.
Yeah.
And I have to assume if you knew where it was going, certainly you've been leaving clues along the way for the true fans who have
Oh,
been.
breadcrumbs. Ever since the very first issue 40 years ago, if you go into those early issues, in fact, you can for free on elfquest.com. There's a section where we've got the last 35, 37 years of comic issues uploaded for free for you to read.
You guys like free,
that-
right?
The,
My
the
goodness.
best F word ever. And if you look at all of that, you will find over the years where we have put clues that led 10 years later to something that happened that we knew 10 years earlier.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the final quest. Like, how do you begin the end?
Well, the final quest, we have partnered with Dark Horse Comics to bring this epic fantasy saga to a conclusion. And they have been so wonderful and just giving us their best in terms of just the quality of the publications and the reproduction of the color. It's just, we're so happy with them. And the story was planned 20 years ago. The whole treatment for the story that would take 5 years to do was planned 20 years ago, and now we're getting to the last 2 issues.
And there's a thing in storytelling called the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell, I think, invented the term, but it goes back thousands of years as a storytelling device. And you take a character, and he has what's called a story arc. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And he goes through trials, and he goes through ups and downs. And our main characters have all been on the hero's journey. It began back in 1978. And for some of them, anyway, it wraps up nice and neat with a bow. Not so much.
Oh,
You getting
Next
nerd
year.
chills, pal? I'm getting the nerd chills.
I'm seriously trying to fight back tears because I think, it's very rare that you see a couple come into this and having to work together. And then, I'm sure there's challenges within that, but also some great rewards because you guys get to be together and create together and be creative. That's an amazing journey.
well, we developed a very schizoid relationship. He's the editor and the publisher. I'm the artist and the writer and rioter. And over the course of 40 years, sometimes the editor and the artist would get into a fight, and so
And throw
That
paint at
sounds
him.
like their problem.
so I would have to come to him and say, I'm the wife now, and I need to talk to my husband.
There you go.
Because I hate my editor.
For all those young couples out there trying to make it work creatively.
That's how it works.
You got some pro
Yeah.
tips over here, guys.
And how has the comic? I mean, where is it in your relationship? Like, how has it been an object, and has it always been the same thing that it was at the start?
Is there anything other than comics in a relationship. Come on,
I'm
look where we
in
are.
a 13-year esports-based relationship. So let me tell you, I sympathize more than most, where the thing you love becomes so centric. But as that thing changes, I mean, does that then change your relationship at all?
Well, this is our child. This is our child, but it's also kind of autobiographical. We take things that happen to us in real life and we translate them into fantasy metaphors. And people, that's the way people really have related to these characters for 40 years, because it's very human, it's very relatable, because it's stuff that happens to us.
Yeah. Right.
And so as time has gone by, you know, the things that have happened to us and the way we've grown has helped us tell the story richer and richer and richer.
And who has been the character that maybe you find yourself, you know, most fond of now as we approach the final quest?
Well, when we started out, the two main characters, Cutter and Skywise, kind of spoke for both of us. And interestingly enough, he's Skywise and I'm Cutter. but all of the characters are a little bit of a piece of us.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
And you know, for a lot of people, you know, watching, this could be their first introduction to this series. Can you give us a little bit of just kind of a base and foundation of like what this story, you know, how it started and, you know, what it's about?
Oh, good heavens. Well, it is a fantasy story, and it involves elves on a quest. That much should be obvious from the title.
Nailed it.
But these are not fantasy traditional elves. These are actually aliens who got stranded on this world due to an accident many thousands and thousands of years ago, and they have changed physically and emotionally and spiritually to adapt to the rigors of this world. And Elfquest is their journey to find who they are, where they belong on this new world that they may or may not stay with.
Yes, do you go home? Do you go back to the stars where you came from? Or do you stay on the world that where you were born and that you adapted to?
Where your friends and your family
exactly.
is.
This is the big choice. This is the major conflict of Final Quest, is stay or go.
Oh.
So, yeah, I know.
It's
Those
so
nerd chills,
deep.
right? It
It's
starts
so
here and
deep.
it goes down the arms. I mean, looking at it, it's about elves. It's about, you know, aliens, but it's about like it's such a huge world. After 40 years, the world in the stories is as large as the world that we live in now. And have you changed opinions, changed thoughts? Changed, like, you know, it deals with you know, different communities coming together. It deals with a lot of difficult stuff.
Yes.
Have your perspectives on these things evolved as the world has evolved in the last 40 years?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. When we started in the mid-'70s, we did not think the world was going to be what it's like right now.
I can't imagine anyone did.
We started out with the very hopeful hippy-dippy idea that, you know, in time, in the future, people were going to learn to live together, and especially bigotry and hate and racial prejudice. These are primitive reptile brain emotions that we thought were all going to be disappearing. And here we are, and Elfquest is more relevant than ever in some ways, because the elves represent any marginalized community that has felt persecuted.
Yeah, to come into a hostile
And so-
world and to
yeah.
carve out their own space and to
Yeah,
integrate
so
them.
anyone can relate to them now, just like when we started. We didn't realize it was going to be like this. So
Yeah, and as you know, the world has grown, the world of Elfquest, you know, it's sucked in so many fans, so many people who have brought it into their homes and into their hearts and treated it different ways. I mean, what ways have fans experienced this, and how have they come back to you?
Oh, good heavens. Here are two very quick examples. One, fans are so invested in some of the characters that when one of the characters died, his mate cut off a long braid of hair that she had grown probably for thousands of years. And about a month after that issue came out, we got a package in the mail from a fan who had a 3-foot braid that she cut off and sent it to us. I'm not sure what she was trying to say. But
She was just in total sympathy.
total sympathy. But we also have gotten many, many letters from fans who say Elfquest helped me through a very difficult time, whether it was family or school or just being out in the world and getting picked on. We get that every day, and that is what makes Elfquest really, really wonderful for us to be doing.
Yes, we still like to put forth a philosophy that things can get better, that people can treat each other as well as they possibly can. That's how the elves live. They're not heroes. They're not superheroes. They're not out to do good and fight evil. We don't even have good and evil in the stories. They don't even know what those concepts are. But what they try to do, just living day to day, is just treat each other and others as well as they can. And right now, that seems to be a very reasonable way to try to live.
Yeah, it's a good way to live, and it's going to be hard to have life after Elfquest. I mean, what is it going to mean for you guys? And do we really have to let go of it? Is there going to be more?
No.
No. Other than a 6-month vacation, which
Hey.
Well deserved, I would say.
Way well deserved.
the resolution and the conclusion of Final Quest does not mean the end of Elfquest, because if you're at all familiar with it, you know that there are more stories that we've already hinted at that happen in the future of this world that still involve the same characters, because they're essentially immortal. So you can have a technological future to this world, and the elves are still there.
Yes, yes, we dallied with that in the 90s with Future Quest.
And
So, yeah.
as we quest towards the future, will you still be writing and drawing? Will you still be editing and producing?
Absolutely. I won't be drawing the comics anymore, but I am absolutely excited about working with some people who've already approached us with ideas for ongoing stories. So I'm definitely happy to be in a consulting role.
And as an editor, I'm an,
You can't
it's in my
ever
DNA,
stop.
control freak.
Yeah,
So
can't ever stop.
whether it's her, like she lets me control her, right? Or new writers and artists, we're going to keep the reins.
That's fantastic, because you guys have the vision. You've guided it over 40 years, and I couldn't help but notice in my research that a lot of people were talking about maybe an Elfquest movie. So
Oh.
is that real? Is that going to happen?
People have been talking about an Elfquest movie for 40 years, and Hollywood has been knocking on our door for 40 years, and we've been up to the altar many times, but never quite got married because Hollywood doesn't get it yet. Hollywood loves good versus evil.
Yeah.
Hollywood loves good guys versus bad guys. Hollywood just doesn't quite know what to do with something that has a philosophy like Elfquest, where everything is shades of gray. How do you turn this into a conflict when it's shades of gray? So someday somebody is going to knock on our door, and they're going to get it. And
Sounds like.
And
Are you listening, Hollywood?
It
Yeah.
sounds like it needs to be a
Yeah.
8-season series, actually.
Actually, now hang on. We are talking to people now. Let me put it that way.
Great.
All right.
We
You
are
heard it here.
talking.
You heard it here.
We are talking to people now, and the prospect of a Game of Thrones style series is in the wind. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying we're talking.
All right.
Hold on.
But we think that's a better way to tell the story, because how do you cram 40 years of story
Right.
into 1 or 2 or 3 movies, really? It's
Yeah.
a lot more to it than that.
As you make these decisions, as you find out what's coming, and as we approach the end of the Final Quest, where can we keep up with you? And for those of you out there who have not started on Elfquest, there's no better time than now. So where can we also find those 37 years of free issues?
Okay, is this easy to remember? Elfquest.com.
Hold on, you lost me. Do it again.
And then you just click on the page that says read it, and you got 7,000 pages for
Thank you.
free.
Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you both so much. Let's give these guys a round of applause for all the work they put into Elfquest, making an
Legends
incredible
over there.
series, and for what is still to come. Thank you guys so much,
Thank
Richard
you.
and Wendy.
Thank you.
Guys, we've got lots more coming at you from New York Comic Con. I'll see you on the next 2 panels. Don't go